I had a ghost in the house one night. Just one night. At the time I lived alone. Still do. Still in the same house. I was 35 and had been living in my home for about 2 to 3 years. Nothing out of the ordinary in those years. One night, I was reading in bed. It was an average-sized bedroom, and my bed faced the door, which was open. I had no pets at the time, and no reason to close the bedroom door. I read most nights before bed, so I was sitting up in bed, light on, reading. For some reason, I had the creepy feeling I was being watched. I could not get over it. I'd be studying the words, trying to immerse myself in the story, but I just could not get over the feeling of being watched. I peered into the main area of the house, all dark, all lights out, nothing, no noise, no light. I locked the front and back doors, just like I did every night. I live in Minneapolis, so this was not some remote, isolated town. I could not read my book. That feeling of being watched, or stared at, kept growing and growing. Ever watch TV with someone and they're just staring at you while you stare at the TV? You don't even need to turn to them because you can feel their eyes on you. Funny thing is, I didn't feel threatened, not exactly. I didn't like the sensation. It was completely creeping me out, but I didn't feel like I was going to be attacked. I tried shaking it off, but I couldn't read. So I turned off the light and tried to sleep, but that just made the sensation worse. The thing watching me never felt like it was in my bedroom, always just beyond the bedroom door, in the darkness of the rest of the house. After a few minutes of this intense feeling, I knew I couldn't fall asleep. I realized what I had to do, make sure there's nobody in the house. What if this was some survival instinct and there was some person hiding in my home who I was ignoring? This was pre-cell phones, or I promise you, I would have texted a friend to come over right away. I could have called someone, I guess, but I did something more stupid. I got up, turned on the lights in the dining room, nobody there. Went back to bed laughing at myself for being ridiculous, turned out the lights. Immediately, the sensation was back and equally as strong. I was being watched. I tried to ignore it. I really did. Nope, not gonna happen. Got up, turned on the lights. I got my softball bat and walked the entire house. I think this was the bravest, stupidest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I went into every room and turned on every light. I knew I wouldn't sleep if I didn't check every single closet, every person-sized cubbyhole. I went into the basement. I looked behind the basement stairs. I double-checked the front and back doors. Both were locked, all windows secured. My upstairs wasn't finished at the time, under renovations, but I went up there anyway and looked in every nook and cranny. Probably a whole hour had passed since I started noticing the sensation, reading in bed. If someone were hiding in my house and meant me harm, I seriously doubt a chunky 35-year-old with an aluminum bat could have done much harm, but I felt very confident I was alone in the house. This was my mind playing tricks on me. The house was empty. I was now 100% sure. I went back to my bedroom, all of the lights in the house off, except for the bedside light. I was still rattled, freaked out, that I thought walking the house was necessary in the first place. I mean, who does that? I laughed at myself for freaking out. I started reading for a while. Then it was back. I was being watched. It was at this point when I started to pay greater attention to the being watched feeling. Did I feel in danger? No. Did I feel an evil spirit? No, not exactly. I didn't like this feeling at all, but I didn't feel like it was whispering, kill, 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 under its hell breath either. It also felt intentional. It was a presence, and it wanted me to know it was a presence. It wasn't trying to scare me, but it was trying to communicate its presence. I called out to the dark room, "I don't want you here, please go away." Nothing changed. I yelled other phrases like, "I don't know what you want," and even, "Go into the light." I got that one from the Poltergeist movie, the original one. This now strikes me as a dumb thing to yell, but I didn't know what else to do. I can't say I believed in ghosts, but I also can't say I didn't. I have had weird, freaky things happen in my life, but nothing like this. I was being watched. Okay, I said to myself, fine, no sleep tonight. I read my book to the best of my ability, knowing there's no one in the house with me. I woke up in the morning with the bedroom light on and the book in my chest. The last time I looked at the clock was around 4 a.m. My eyes burned since I had barely slept and felt hungover. Exhausted from the tension, the feeling of being watched was also gone. I walked around the house and it felt like it did every day, just normal. I called in sick to work and slept until noon. Since I had the day off, that afternoon I did house projects. I was in the middle of cleaning out a filing cabinet, throwing out old papers and making room for new stuff, when my phone rang. I was sitting on the floor with the papers all around me. The woman said, "Is this Eddie?" I confirmed. I didn't recognize her voice. This was way before constant telemarketers calling. She said, "I'm a friend of Richard. I'm very sorry to tell you that he died yesterday, passing from an illness." Richard and I had been friends in college. He had expressed deep romantic feelings for me, but I did not return them. We stayed friends but eventually drifted apart. No drama, just some friends you don't keep up with. But he was a good man and we had several years of a nice friendship. I was a little surprised I was on his call list, actually. The minute she said he had died, I knew. I knew that it was Richard in my home the previous night. I knew it. It all made perfect sense. The idea of being watched, of it not being a dangerous presence, but just a presence, as if he wanted me to know he was there. It was an intensity without malice. Richard said goodbye. I've never felt anything like that in the house ever again.